Good morning. Welcome to ScreenJunkies Universe. It's so good to see you today because I can see you, every single one of you, looking at you now. I'm Roth Gordette. That's Joe Starr. Look at the hair today. Ed Greer is here. It's Famous Ed Wednesday. Dan Merle.
If you wake and bake with us, we apologize. 'Cause we just made you very paranoid.
It's all true. There's lots to talk about today, you guys. Steve Trevor is returning to Wonder Woman 2. We have a title for that movie. Jeremy Renner talks to our own Danielle Radford. That's exciting. That's coming up. But first, big news around Warner Brothers that we want to unpack a little bit, which is apparently a word I use a lot. So here it goes. This came out yesterday afternoon. After a 6-week trial, Judge Richard Leon ruled that the DOJ has failed to prove that the AT&T Time Warner decision violates antitrust law. So the merger between AT&T and Time Warner is going through. This is via CNN and the Washington Journal. AT&T vowed to close the deal by June 20th. So that's a week or so away, roughly.
Next week.
Yeah, so by next week, meaning that HBO, CNN, Warner Brothers, and Time Warner's other brands will change hands. The deal will unite Time Warner's TV shows and movies with AT&T's massive distribution platforms, including cell phones and satellite networks. AT&T said it needed Time Warner to survive in a rapidly changing media landscape, especially to compete against things like Amazon and Netflix. So what does this mean for us, the people that are paying for the things that we watch on the stuff? It's not great, potentially. So this is via the Wall Street Journal. The big bundle looks like it's set for a comeback, they say. Quote, not only is AT&T about to get Time Warner, which includes HBO, CNN, and the rest of the Turner channels, and Warner Brothers movie studio, but Comcast, already owner of NBC Universal, is likely to pressure 21st Century Fox, sucking up even more content. So we've talked about this previously, that basically Comcast was waiting to see what would happen with the AT&T Time Warner deal before they made an all-cash bid for Fox against Disney. Either way, that deal will now has a precedent for going through. Internet service providers will now have the opportunity to, and this is the big key because remember that net neutrality also ended this week. It's been a fun week. So internet service providers are basically going to have the opportunity now to say, hey, if you want to watch AT&T through watch HBO through our service, you can do so for free. But if you're on another one, we're going to charge you $10 extra for it. So those are just some of the implications for how they may leverage this deal to their advantage in terms of owning the content that they are also distributing. Another piece of this and we're going to dive in. Hang on, we're almost there. Another piece of this that Mr. Billy Business and I were talking about this morning is that some states are saying, you know what, we're keeping net neutrality, but now they're in a position to challenge those states, like Washington State. Yeah, Billy?
I believe Washington was one of the states.
Yeah, you should come over, Billy.
Yeah, we don't
then
have
we
a
have to
camera
it's like
on
a game
you,
of
and
telephone.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So this is kind of complicated, and I definitely need to do a little bit more research. But from what I understand, in the bill that repeals net neutrality, there is language that says that states cannot write their own legislation as far as it concerns net neutrality. That being said, it's kind of like marijuana, where there's federal kind of legislation and then there's state legislation. On this, just because it's so new, no one has actually challenged these states in court in terms of their net neutrality laws. So this could open it up if Comcast or Time Warner or AT&T wanted to sue those states for being for violating those laws. It potentially could happen. It just hasn't yet.
So there's a number of different implications here, as we've seen and as we've been talking about as we eyed this decision coming up. Hey, everybody's going to have their own opinion about why this is good in terms of for business and how it is impossible to compete against an Amazon and a Netflix, which, again, they own the content that they're distributing. So they're already doing that, and they are giants. However, the further implications of the added costs for consumers just to get the content that you already get is maybe not such a good thing. Dan Merle, chime in. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's very complex. We'll talk about Wolverine in a minute.
Oh yeah,
That's part of it, but we'll get to it. It's very complex. It's kind of the intricate thing of like it makes you feel a little bit like Claire Danes in Homeland with the big crazy board of pictures and yarn and trying to connect the dots. But I mean, it's actually not that hard when you think about, let's say obviously AT&T, Time Warner are going to merge, and you have Warner Brothers. You have AT&T's got an internet service, and then let's say Comcast goes through and they buy Fox, and now Comcast, which obviously is a huge internet provider, has Fox and all that stuff, and they are competing against Netflix and Amazon. This is kind of what we're talking about, is the possibilities that can happen, particularly now with net neutrality gone. If Comcast has a streaming service or something, they start with Fox or whatever, and they want to push that, it's also now legal for them to, if Comcast acquired Fox, to slow down Netflix's service on their service because they want to put, it's like, well, Netflix sucks on our service, but you can watch all the Fox stuff that you want if you subscribe to our, that's when we talk about net neutrality.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that's possible. That's the kind of, and these are big corporations. I mean,
And
sometimes they're out for good, and sometimes believe it or not, they can be a little evil.
Well, they're out
and out to make as much money as
they're
they
out
can
to make
make.
a profit. I don't think it's
Exactly.
actually evil or not. They want to make a profit, and if they can leverage,
It's advantageous.
it's advantageous to them and disadvantageous to us, the
yes.
consumer.
So this is the sort of intricate web when people are like, wow, what does it all matter? This is why it matters. It's not that we're saying these things are going to happen. It's the thing that, like, these are the kind of things that now can happen. And again, if you're a business, why wouldn't you freeze out the competitors and say, well, why am I competing with Netflix and Amazon when I own the internet access to 30% of the people in the country, and it's legal for me to slow down those two services and speed mine up so that there is no competition?
Or
why
or
wouldn't
to
they
say
do that from a business standpoint?
If you, Dan, are on have a different internet provider to say now, oh, well, I have these HBO Go, I have DCL access, I have these other things, and I can make sure that those are harder for you to get on your different service. Get my package, get my specialty like Gold Star, yay, you package, and it looks attractive. But really what it is them tricking you and forcing you to either use their service or to slow down their competitors in terms of content, like you're saying. Either way, it's not good for the consumer. And let us not forget that the largest growing piece of entertainment, the largest growing profit-bearing piece of entertainment is streaming. Like, this is the way everyone knows it's where it is, and then definitely where it's going.
Well, I think the interesting thing about the competition here now is, you want to compete against Amazon and Netflix. Let's say Amazon and Netflix are both car companies that are producing their own cars. AT&T now comes in and they're like, well, we want to also be a car company that produces our own cars, but we also own the roads. And that's just a weird, gross, I don't know, it just feels like an overpowered sort of punch into that conversation. Plus, you will also be forced to package a landline telephone into any of these deals.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Also very true.
Yeah. Every Warner Brothers movie now is going to have
Required
Superman
landline.
will be exclusively using landline telephone.
Do you love
Lois.
DC?
Lois?
the DC / phone
But
package.
you know what they will be using? They will be using like any AT&T brand anything. I mean, that's absolutely going to happen.
That's why Spider-Man is such a fan of the Sony Vaio.
really likes
He loves and the Ericsson mobile
Look.
phone.
Are we being unfair in the sense of, like, is there something to the idea of, like, hey, wait a minute, Amazon and Netflix are already doing this and they're giants. It's truly we're not able to compete if you don't allow a deal like this to go through. Or are they in fact like sort of shuffling under the carpet the fact that, okay, yeah, Amazon and Netflix own the content that they're distributing, but they don't own the
They don't own the
they
distribution.
don't own the distribution,
Yeah.
right? You now own all of it.
Well, I mean, personally, I don't know. I understand how net neutrality works, and I get it, comment section, but I think we're opening ourselves up to new legislation, because if I was Netflix and I found out you were legally and willfully ruining my content on your platform, I would try to sue you. I would try to get together with like-minded companies and make some sort of class action lawsuit.
against you for screwing my content on your platform. That's what I would seek to do. Net neutrality or no. I mean, there's as Billy was talking about, states are already trying to defy it in their own ways and make it maybe try to form certain consortiums, much like the cannabis industry. Like, nah, forget your federal law. People in my city can smoke weed all day. Well, people in my state can watch Netflix at an appropriate bit rate.
That's
you know what
two
I mean?
weed metaphors.
You know what I mean?
15 minutes. Go ahead.
I just feel like that's what I think, that we're opening ourselves up for that. And I feel as though as a business, I don't know that they would want to do all that, because it would be like, it's twisting your mustache in public. Nobody twists their mustache on TV. They
When
do
was
it
the last
behind
time you
closed
watched
doors.
TV, Ed?
Well, I streamed some mustache twisting the other day.
No, it's true. I'd be curious for the defenders of this deal, what they think that the benefits are. I really am curious to hear about that, because I'm open to listening to that perspective. For me, it just seems like I'm 100% coming at it from the perspective of the consumer. And if there's the opportunity to make more money and things difficult for the consumer, what are you going to do? You know, any company that's actually being responsible to their bottom line and to their shareholders are going to take the opportunity to make more money. That's what they do. That's why the government has to stop them. They're the gas. The government's the brakes.
Well, the government did try to stop them.
Well, they
failed.
did, and they lost.
They lost.
Yeah. Again, to be clear, so that we're not like burning down the DOJ. This wasn't them making the decision. This was this judge. Yeah,
the federal judge, the DOJ. Now, why the Department of Justice tried to stop it, that's a whole other show. Another whole, there's this yarn board, and then over here is the other yarn board about why the Department of Justice was trying to stop this deal. Did it have to do with CNN? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know any of this other than it's. I'm sure there's a lot of people saying, we're henny penny, the sky is falling, but also at the same time, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that that we are going toward 5 or 6 monoliths in this industry, in the entertainment industry, in the telecommunications industry, and in a weird way, you would think that the fewer companies there are, the less competition there would be. But in a weird way, the fewer companies there are, the more competition there is, because now they're all huge, massive, multi-billion-dollar conglomerates that are all competing with each other, and they can't fail. If they fail, my God, that's a huge thing.
Have we ever heard the
fail.
term "too big to fail" before? Was that in any way problematic?
I am excited for the post-apocalyptic wasteland where a small regional theater in what once was Chicago buys the rights to all Warner Brothers characters for like
50 cents
and a really nice set of femurs. Yeah.
Well, no, I feel like you're right. I feel like that's the appropriate riff. It's like we always thought the franchise wars was going to come down to Taco Bell, and no, it's just, it's going to be Amazon and Time Warner as these giant cities that move around like that. Like the one movie. What's that movie?
Immortal Engines.
Immortal Engines. Yes.
On the other side,
Time Warner Engines.
This is the second time that Time Warner has been bought by a monolith, and the last time it didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
AOL Time Warner.
Yeah.
Time Warner ended up not being AOL Time Warner after a while.
Well, Time Warner's like when you see like Fin Fang Foom try to eat the Hulk.
Yeah.
It never works out. He punches his way out every time. Somebody tries to eat Wolverine, he claws his way out every time. Time Warner is a wily bastard, and it's so big you can't eat it.
We will be talking about. Do we have more on this?
Oh, well, just that now Comcast is going to be moving very soon, I'm sure, for Fox for an all-cash bid, which is going to force Disney then to maybe put in an all-cash bid, which is going to be a whole thing.
And just to be clear, we were talking about this a little bit this morning in terms of the Disney Fox deal or the Disney Comcast deal. We'll see how that all shakes out now. This is Comcast getting the green light to make their move. A lot of times we get comments that say, you guys are not noting the fact that the Marvel characters that Fox currently has a license to will revert back to Marvel automatically if they sell them to anyone else. We can find zero evidence that this is anything other than a theory. Yeah. We can find zero evidence that these contracts are even available for that to be known.
I've seen, we've gotten, and we legitimately looked this up
Yeah.
because we're like, are we getting this wrong? Because
Yeah.
every time we do a story on the Disney Comcast thing and we talk about this, like, well, the Marvel characters could never go to anyone but Fox, and those rights automatically revert to
Would go
Marvel
back.
because the licenses are non-transferable. We investigated this, and there is no actual source on the record saying that that's a fact. There's a
So
lot
if
of
you find
speculation.
one,
Yeah.
let us know.
If we're not deep enough
Yeah.
on the
But
web.
at the same time,
Yeah.
there's nothing in all of these sales.
If you find a reputable source.
The theory being that if Fox was sold to anyone else but Disney, that it would, well, obviously if Disney buys it, of course, because they own Fox, of course they own the rights because Fox owns the rights.
Yes.
But I think that the theory was that people were saying is like, well, the license, they're only leased. So if the studio is sold and dissolved, then the rights, then that lease is no longer valid, and the rights go back to Marvel. Number one, if Fox is sold to Comcast, it
Fox
very well
still
it can still be
exists.
Fox. That doesn't change the deals.
Yeah,
at all.
it will not be
If
dissolved.
Comcast
Yeah.
dissolves Fox again, that may be true that the deals that were currently in place wouldn't take place. But I'm sure in that contract that they sign up that Comcast would negotiate to transfer the rights that Fox had to Comcast. So this idea that like that the I've seen it's like none of the news outlets are telling the truth that these rights can't be transferred and they automatically revert. We cannot find anything that factually states that to
Yeah.
be the case. Perhaps it's a possibility, but it's not the actual facts of what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Certainly that's a possibility. But again, right now, that's just a standing theory. That is not the facts as
Yeah.
we understand them. But if you guys have a source to a reputable source, let us know in the comments. Really,
We looked. We spent a while trying to find
We
one.
would love to
Yeah.
see that.
and a guy on Reddit said a thing is not the most reputable source.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a theory that makes sense. It's an educated guess, but as you were saying, Ed, like Comcast, even if it does purchase Fox, the company, is not dissolving Fox, the company. They just own that company now as one
And
of
they
their
own it,
assets.
and
Yeah,
have
you would
the
never
rights.
throw that brand away. That brand has been being made and built up for 100 years now.
Right.
So no, you would not just throw that brand away. That brand is worth a lot, just even as a brand. Even if you've totally taken care of it or taken over it and fired everybody that worked there, that brand is still valuable.
Right, just like NBC Universal exists and they own it, right? So it's
Exactly.
the same idea. But if you find any evidence otherwise, honestly, we really would love to hear about that. Long story endless, we're looking forward to your thoughts about this deal. If you have a perspective that we don't in terms of why it's like, great, heyday for everyone, we'd love to hear it. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman 1984. So we have an official title for the movie and a first look at the first couple of images from it via Patty Jenkins' Twitter account this morning. Cool. So there she is, Dinah Prince, looking at a whole bunch of 80s.
all that 80s
Dallas.
Look at all the 80s things, all the 80s pop culture happening on those screens.
Top Gun.
Ferrari.
Is Stranger
Bars.
Things on
Just-
that? No.
There's a lot of just like TVs didn't work in the 80s that I'm seeing on this screen.
I mean, they didn't. That's fair. Drink Coke.
It looks like she stumbled into Ozymandias' lair.
Yeah.
Like what you see, Diana? Soon it will all be gone. I don't know why he's so deep voiced.
Bubastis, get down.
Well, but the bigger reveal today was that Steve Trevor, and hey, spoilers for Wonder Woman if you haven't seen it, you have. Steve Trevor, who we saw die, notably, is back, seemingly. And so this has stirred some conversation on the internet. On the one hand, my take is, on the one hand, if this really is, I get that it's comics and people are never really dead and they come back. But for me, one of the things that really worked about Wonder Woman was that it mattered. The stakes of his storyline really mattered. They were effective for me as an audience member. That loss hit me as an audience member, and it certainly, supposedly, hit her and shaped the trajectory of her next many decades, So this really impacted her. If we just sweep that away, then it really undercuts what the first film did. However, we don't know that that's the case. Just yet, as people are talking about. I trust Patty Jenkins. I think she's a great filmmaker. I trust that there is some sense to this. Could he be brought back by Hades? Could he be a decoy? Oh, thoughts, people, comics, nerd, stuff.
He already shares far too much in common with Captain America. So
Yeah.
I mean, I
please
hope
don't
he's not
actually have
frozen
me
in
like-
ice.
If this is actually Steve Trevor, then you may as well just have him land in Captain America's plane next to Captain America,
Yep.
frozen alongside Captain America.
But it's like the Top Gun, like
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, there's always some kind of crazy. Those gods are always up to something
they're up
crazy.
to no
guys.
good.
So who knows? Who knows what this could be?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take a page of learning a lesson from back when we'd be like, Jen Erso's mom's got a Kyber necklace. Ray's mom confirmed.
Yeah.
And really trying to like read too much into things. I think she's in 1984. She's at the mall. Maybe she just stopped by 31 Flavors.
Sure.
She misses Steve Trevor. She sees a guy who looks somewhat like Steve Trevor. And then she sees Steve Trevor and that guy. And then, like you said, Dan, like
Someone walks by.
Yeah, someone walks by with like a boombox. And then like it's not Steve Trevor anymore, and she looks away. I kind of think that's it. I think this is sort of just an image to be like, let's get people talking. Second of all, can you bring the image back up, JTE? I am so much more interested in this badass dude in the blue shorts than I am Steve
Yeah.
Trevor.
What's going on with that guy?
I just like that guy. He's a very distinct looking dude. I want to know about him. Let us know in the comments. What's his name? What's his backstory?
Or Barb's mom over on the
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
side.
Barb's mama. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ladies from 9 to 5 and working.
There's so much-
There's a lot happening.
Yeah,
There's a
that's
Cher
why I think
impersonator kind of on the far
Yeah.
right, or maybe Cher herself. Cher confirmed.
That's why I think he's a
Wonder
red
Woman.
herring.
Hashtag share confirmed.
Hashtag Cher confirmed. Wonder
Hashtag
Woman
Cher
84.
confirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, JT, let's put the tinfoil hats on and go.
Joe Star, I gotta confess that the gentleman that you're fascinated by.
Show me Barb's mom.
striking resemblance hairstyle wise.
You know what? Yeah, we just find each other.
Joe
We
Starr
just find each
confirmed.
other. Joe Star confirmed. Wonder Woman
Yeah,
1984.
where's
Joe
there?
Starr's-
See,
Look at this
Barb's mom.
tracksuit.
Yeah.
Is what? But let's look at his face.
Is that a members only jacket? That's very 80s.
It
That's
is.
tight.
Yeah,
He can only go left or right. He can't
He
go
can
up.
only go
you
left
can't
or right.
You
We
can't
can't.
go
Can we
up
go
or
up?
down. You can't go up.
Oh,
There
yeah.
That is a very Top Gun look. Now that we're examining it up close, but he also looks like confused. Maybe he just woke up from some kind of
80s machine.
80s life sleep. All right.
I think he's. Yeah. I think
What do you
he's
think, Ed?
I think she met the guys from Weird Science.
Okay.
And had them make her a Steve Trevor out of like bras and underwear and whatever they had.
Let me
on.
ask you a
Steve Trevor
question.
wouldn't be made of bras. Lisa's made of bras.
Yeah. It's you wear the bra on your head.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
To
you
make
wear
a
the bra on
lady.
your head,
What do you wear
exactly.
on your head to
Jock
make
strap.
a Chris Evans?
A
A jock
jock
strap.
Jock strap on
Yeah.
their heads.
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
good one.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good one. I'm glad to sponsor that riff.
Bow, bow, bow.
Do you care what the explanation is?
I'm kind of in Joe Starr's camp. I think it's just a way to show her mental state or something of that nature. I don't know why he's so confused in her dream or her flashback. I think that's weird.
I don't think that's confusion. I think that's a smolder. I think that is
That's
just
a
a
smolder.
default
Oh,
Chris
yeah.
Pine face.
If
I can
there's
see that.
anything Chris Pine knows how to do, it's successfully smolder.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also I do agree with Dan that if he is walking around the mall in the 80s going, damn, I could have never envisioned this in World War I, I'm just going to shoot myself in the theater. I'm just going to shoot myself.
Just cannot do this.
I can't do this anymore.
No, I think yeah, he's a phantom. He's a ghost. He's her moral compass. He's trying to encourage her to like.
Ooh, liking it. He's like the anti Kilgrave to
Yeah.
Jessica
Yeah.
Jones.
Yeah.
He's like the opposite of
It's
that.
an easy way to get inside her head.
All right.
Yeah, to get a look inside
Who
her.
knows
that's
what
how
that
we get-
cheetah's gonna be doing?
And I'm good with it. I really like their chemistry. I think Chris Pine is a phenomenal actor. So give me some Chris Pine.
If ever there was a man worthy, you know what I mean?
of the name Chris or Pine.
Of Wonder Woman.
Wait a minute.
Of
Wait a
Wonder
minute. Wait a
Woman.
minute.
Yeah,
just,
I'm with you.
We gotta clarify two things really quickly. He was great in that movie, and I agree with you. They have awesome chemistry. So yeah, if he really is acting as like sort of her internal monologue, externalized, that's cool. But he is not the best Chris. Factually, that's Chris Evans.
Okay, hang on.
And that's the end of that.
Well, you said Hemsworth wrong, but okay.
Could have a Chris off.
I think.
Lest we not forget, also Michael Bain was in Terminator 2 in a cut scene that was on the trading card that is in the director's cut in a dream sequence. So
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
It could be a Michael Biehn situation.
It could be.
But I'm gonna stick to my guns, and Chris Pine is the most well-rounded of all these Chris's.
No, Evans.
He has the most tools in the toolkit.
No. Evans is by far the greatest Chris for the following reasons. He is the greatest Chris to follow on Twitter. He is the Chris that wants to do the most in the world. He acts, he directs, he makes his own little films. He makes interesting films when he's not making the Marvel movies. You know what? He's Captain America.
Wow.
And it's his birthday today. Therefore,
Happy birthday to the third best Chris.
heretofore and forever, he is the best of the Chris's. Nobody's
Well,
gonna take Pratt.
You obviously
no.
haven't
Nah.
seen.
Nah.
You obviously haven't seen a little movie called Black Hat. I think you'll change your mind.
Never seen someone so handsome do so much typing.
I mean,
It's never happened in cinema.
it's an embarrassment of riches with the Chris's, right? They all
It
have
is.
something to offer, but
Some
yeah.
more than others, Pine.
Evans. Tag. We had sent Danielle Radford to the Tag Junket to talk to these wonderful people about the film, which she says is really good. I'm looking forward to it this weekend. Let's take a look at that.
Our group of friends has been playing the same game of tag for 30 years.
What?
One thing about this that I loved was how all of the tags were like these elaborate action sequences.
They're all reminiscent of some kind of famous chase scene or action sequence, but more ridiculous because no one's trying to kill anybody. They're not robbing banks.
It's
They're
literally just to tag
touching
someone.
somebody with your finger.
And like with the exception of Jeremy, none of us are action stars.
No, exactly.
So we're pretty frumpy running around trying to do this stuff.
Like so, example, like it's like instead of having the chase sequence from whatever Ronin, we've got two guys in golf carts,
Yeah.
like really kind of
Yeah.
focused in and crazy.
Which action sequence from like a famous movie would make for a great game of tag?
Face off. Taking off faces to tag somebody. You think that's somebody else.
Okay.
And then they tag you, say you can't tag me. It's like, it's me.
What would a game of tag look like in 50 Shades of Grey?
It'd be it would be dark.
It'd be really dark?
It'd be real dark. It'd be
Yeah.
very sexual, it'd be very dark, and it would be not family friendly.
Not family friendly for the 50 Shades of Tag.
I think we need to be on horses.
Yeah.
Like an old-timey Western.
Someone count 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go.
I want to see tag on horses.
James Bond. I like the really big, cinematic sort of tag sequence.
I would love to have seen you throwing donuts at Jeremy Renner in the town.
Agent Krella.
Yeah, I'd still be alive.
Yeah, you would be. Well, maybe cholesterol would have got you.
Yeah.
So good to see you. Come on, it's been a while since we've done this.
If you're trying to reconnect with a friend, which is what so much of the movie is about, what's a good first message to send to an old friend that you've lost touch with?
You up?
That's it? Yeah.
Something you haven't seen in a long time, you mean?
Yeah, like a good friend, you're trying to reconnect, stay in touch with
Dude,
your
miss
buddies.
you.
I like your vulnerability. I miss you.
Yeah, I think I miss you is a really nice thing.
Miss you.
Is a nice thing to hear.
That's a lot of pressure to reconnect. Oh my God.
It's really hard.
I don't know what I would say to Jackie Wood and Allison Sheep. Those were my two best friends in high school. Hi, Jackie.
Well, look, you just did.
I'd probably to Jackie, I'd be like, remember when I burned my leg on your motorcycle and your poor mother had to take me to the hospital? Hi, I've healed.
Skip the texts.
Give a phone
Place
call.
a phone call, for God's sake.
I'm sorry, what is a phone call?
Exactly.
I
right?
say just
Where
roll
are we
up
as
on
a
them
culture?
unannounced.
Yeah,
That's
roll
another
up
one.
Unannounced.
Just
no
scare the
pants
hell
on
out
a
of 'em.
skateboard.
George!
I miss you, man. I miss you. Been a long time.
Give a noogie.
Yeah.
Well, I had an old buddy, Scott, that I hit up, and I was having a stripper party at my house, and I invited him, but Scott was like, I have 2 babies and I'm a lawyer now.
I don't live that life.
I was like, stripper party at my house. It starts at midnight. And he was like, what?
I'm up at 6:30, my man.
You know what's great is now Scott's wife knows for sure he is not about that life.
That's
Look
right.
what you did.
Scott's last name?
Scott, shout out to Scott Velasquez.
Scott Velasquez!
Scott Velasquez, Esquire.
He's the real guy. He's the real guy.
All right. What movie do you want to turn into a tag game?
Infinity War.
All right.
I think The Matrix. Just like imagine all that, just like tag.
Yeah,
tag,
that would
tag,
be fun.
tag. Just Agent Smith and Neo just playing a game of.
I'm gonna go
tag.
Sword in the Stone, the old Disney one, because they just keep turning into different animals and playing tag as different animals.
Oh, so it's like a magic, like I tag you and then you
Yeah, now we're
transform.
squirrels. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Breaking
I'm
other
into
little
that.
squirrel hearts.
All right, so
into
I'm
that.
gonna go Lady Hawk then. I'm gonna tag you as a hawk, and I'll tag you as a wolf, and I'll tag you as Rutger Hauer.
That was such a sad. Did you guys ever see Lady Hawk? I love Lady Hawk. Do you guys know Lady Hawk?
I don't know. Lady
Oh,
I'm always bumming Roth
it's
out.
the most.
This is a Roth puzzle piece.
Yeah,
we found one.
I love Lady Hawk. So it's Michelle Pfeiffer, Rutger Hauer at the height of his powers, and Matthew Broderick, who is clearly like in medieval times with a Brooklyn accent and does not care
Awesome.
at all, as like the plucky assistant.
Yeah.
And they have a very bad priest, I think, put a curse on them.
Yep.
So they're in love, and during the day.
All three of them?
No. Well, Rutger Hauer
That
and
would
Michelle
be-
Pfeiffer, and then he's kind of like caught in the middle of it, and he's trying to help them get back together. So during the day, she's a hawk, and at night she's a woman, and at night he's a wolf, and during the day he's a man. Shut up! And they have this one moment at like golden hour where they see each other as fully formed humans, and then it's boom, one's a hawk or one's a Lady Hawk. Good talk.
Harry Potter and Voldemort had quite the epic game of tag.
They did.
That's the best read on that movie I've ever heard you give. Those movies.
Wow. Professor Zoom and Barry Allen, they have a game of tag.
Yeah, that's
goes throughout generations.
Yeah.
Just like tag.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's all kinds of games of the tag that we can find
did it.
in media, the most important of which we've unpacked today, and that is Lady Hawk. Thank you for joining us. We will see you tomorrow. Oh, watch Movie Fights on today.